Good boy. Come on then. How do? Beautiful day, guys. Frosty, but beautiful. How are we doing? From the comments last night, a couple of comments. Somebody said about the role of a prison officer. You know, you have to be brave, honest and true. Don't knock the job. Something similar. You know, nice sentiment. It weren't done in a bad way. They were basically saying, you know, don't knock it. Well, here's the thing. In order to be a prison officer, yeah, you certainly don't have to be brave. You have to pass the online test and your assessment, and that's it. Whatever that job is, when you start, like people starting now, that's all you know. A lot different from when I was working in the job. For me, the chit chat with the staff and the lads we used to lock up, you know, it was just interacting with people all day. Dynamic security, staff prisoner relationships. Not so much now. We all know they're struggling to recruit and struggling to retain staff. But here's the thing. Lots and lots of amazing people I work with. You know, yesterday for some reason, I was thinking of lots of people, you know, I could give shout outs to fantastic staff, and a lot of them, all very different. Some really good at the job, not so good. But they all did a bit. Again, the reason I keep going back to K-Wing on Strangeways is because it was a big wing. We had a lot of lads and there weren't a lot of staff on the landings. Some people like myself, Nobby Nobbler, Mr. Egg, bless him, and Ruthless, who I've just interviewed, would do all the prison officer work you needed to do. You might think, well, that's what you get paid for. Not so much other people. Busy all the time on K-Wing, me, Nobby Nobbler were, and the other lads I've mentioned. Some people you carried, they made up numbers. There were people worked elsewhere around the jail who didn't really bring anything to the job. However, very few sackings of people like that. Being lazy and not very good as a prison officer didn't get you sacked. 22, 23 years in engineering, me. I was a machinist, operated machines, quality engineer. I was a fitter at one bit. I fell into that job. I weren't, you know, no apprenticeship. A fitter strips machines, keeps them running. Yeah, but here's the thing. In engineering, if I was employed to run a machine, I couldn't do it, I'd be sacked. Yeah? Fitter's role, I couldn't do it, I'd be sacked. Quality engineer, couldn't do it, I'd be sacked. Prison service, very few sackings. The people who usually get sacked have to do something really bad, or it's good people sticking their head above parapet and saying this is out of order. They'll work you out. So no, you don't have to be brave. Another thing people used to say to me, you know, you should be proud of whatever. I was just myself, yeah. Treat and speak to people how you want to be treated and spoke to yourself. That's what my nan used to say. I've said that to you guys hundreds of times. Stevie, come on. He loves kids, that dog. Not all prison officers have got bottle. Bottle is that element to people, you know, when push comes to shove, it's coming on top who step up to the mark. But again, lots of people would follow you into battle, as it were, but may not lead you into battle. Job of a prison officer is a strange one. It really is. I know a lot of coppers, I've spoke to a lot of coppers who said, no way, Jose, would I do that job. It is a difficult job. It's made, more than any job I've ever done, more difficult by the people you work with. But it also is what it is, you know. The other thing is, speak to lots of people who are going in the job. I have never, ever tried to put anyone off. I've been honest with them. If they've asked best advice, I've given them what I think is the best advice going into the job. Again, that advice, be humble and be yourself more than anything. Don't try and be something that you're not, because you will get caught out. Stevie, come on. So yeah, that's a little bit about the job. The other comment that really struck a note, pun intended, if the lad sees this, he'll know what I'm talking about. Notes in the box. Stevie, what are notes in the box? A lot of prisoners talk about being stitched up. And some staff are stitched up, that's by other staff. Every wing will have a complaints box. Yeah? By far the easiest way to stitch someone up is to drop a little note in that box. There was a lad on K-wing early on in my career. Ali. Come on, Stevie. Ali. A lot of his friends were my friends. We'd never, well, our paths had crossed. I mentioned the Niche nightclub before. A nightclub in Sheffield that was, shall we say, rather entertaining. Yeah, and we got on. He was looking at a big sentence, he got a big sentence, and he went to dispersal prison. Dispersal prison is a long-term prison, high security estate. A lot of the prisons that hold your Cat A prisoners are dispersal prisoners. He came back to Strangeways towards the end of his sentence. I don't know what wing he was on, but I had a good chat with him one day. I landed on B wing. The staff on B wing at that time, although they were all right, weren't user friendly. No, this way, come on. He wants to go in water, that lad. This way. Come on. Come on. Morning. Hiya. This way, Stevie. He was on B wing. Like I said, the staff weren't user friendly. They go about the business. Sometimes, believe it or not, even when Strangeways was a good place to work, Saturday, overtime on B wing, you'd see people when you got there in the morning, see nobody till dinner time. That's how it was. Anyway, gets chatting to him. He just spent 2 weeks in segregation. What you been down there for? They took him down the block because somebody put a note in a box, the wing he was on, saying he was going to cut a member of staff's head off. Okay. So like I say, Ali'd just done a big sentence. I knew him well. Weren't the sort of lad to assault staff. Just got on with his jail. And that was it, really. You all right? Got on with his jail. The wing he'd been on, somebody put a note in a box saying that. That's it. A little scribbled note. This prisoner, Ali, said he's going to cut a member of staff's head off. Easiest way to stitch anyone up. So he did 2 weeks in a segregation. Nothing he could do about it. Security department, managers, etc. Imagine that. You get a note saying this prisoner. What do? They act on it. He knows who did it. He knew the lad on the out. They didn't get on. Took it on the chin. I've seen staff stitched up as well. Again, bit of a controversial subject this. You know, one I shouldn't be talking about, or I've been told. Staff. So, there were 3 staff when I worked on K-Wing. Who, shall we say, made life more difficult. Considerably more difficult. 2 pens, talked about him before. He was a lad. Harmless lad. Not offensive. Bit of a soft arse. Stevie, come here. Good boy. Yeah, he's not asked him, mate.
Like mine too, pal.
Yeah, no worries. Not offensive, but he used to write prisoners up. That's why we called him 2 pens, 1 in each hand. Prisoners used to have a wing file. He would write them up for anything. What do I mean by that? Negative comments, never positive. Prison officers are not very good at putting positive things in. Eating apple on landing, right up. Like I say, he was harmless. He weren't a bad lad, but he was obsessed. And once or twice, you know, had it not been for the staff around him, dynamic security, he'd have got filled in. You know, prisoners will look, they get on with me, they get on with Nobby Nobbler. They're not liking 2 pens. They're going to give him a squeeze because they get on with us. That's how it works. There was another lad. Both of these shall remain nameless. One of them, in my top 5 worst people I ever worked with in the job. Talked to people like shit, including staff. He thought he were funny, he wasn't. And that come back to bite him on the arse in a big time. We had a prisoner getting out. He's well known in the Greater Manchester area. I can't remember where he was from, might have been Stockport. It was his last night in prison. He was getting out. He had been a cleaner. This officer had him sacked for nothing. You know, I was one of the clean officers on K-Wing. Just let me grab him. There's a horse here. Good boy. Not that he'll do anything. He's a good lad. Yeah. He had this lad sacked. It pissed me off. It used to piss cleaning officers off when you got good lads who were cleaners. Morning, ladies. Are you well? Good. Good boy. Go on there. It used to piss me off. You got good lads, good workers, and somebody would, you know, they'd do something, write something up to get them sacked. Anyway, this lad took it on chin. He hadn't got long to go, a couple of weeks. He was all right, always all right with me, all right with most of the staff. Where's your ball? Oh, he's got it. This officer stitched him up. His last night on K-Wing in Strangeways. This officer kicked it off. Yeah, ended up in a restraint. He was a tough lad, about 12 staff on top of him trying to restrain him. I ended up pulling Nobby Nobbler, my mate, out because he was underneath it all, getting crushed. That officer ended up being ghosted from K-Wing, from Strangeways. He went to another prison because it come back to bite him on the arse because of his bitterness, and he was over the top. You know, there were threats made towards him. That doesn't happen a lot, that, you know, in the extreme case. But I'll tell you something else about that lad, so you can understand exactly what it was like. He had a lad on his wing. He went on K-Wing at that time. I was going on a funeral escort. The lad had lost his 6-month-old child. He was doing 2 weeks in prison. God knows why they didn't let him out. Anyway, I phoned the wing. He was talking about this lad. He's a dickhead, he's a prick. I said, you do know he's lost his son or his daughter, I can't remember. I just remember it was just, you know, not a good thing. He said, not my problem. That's what he was like. People like him were in the minority. But he ended up getting moved because he was threatened. And he saw his arse. Every prisoner I've locked up, if you give them a pen and paper, write down the staff, the worst staff, or the staff like him, they'd all come up with the same names. And probably most of the staff would come up with them staff names as well. They don't make your job easy, they make it really hard. I've lost my point now. Oh yeah, I was talking about this. So the other lad himself, funny lad. You know, I liked him. However, not a prison officer. Bitter and twisted. Again, very shouty, short fuse. A really short fuse. I remember being stood with him on K-Wing, another lad again. Proper Andy lad who I never had no problems with. Did his jail, come walking up, calm as you like, straight in his face, said to him, that officer there saved your life. So he looked at me, what do you mean? If he weren't on the landing now, I'd be giving you a good kicking. So again, he looked at me, this lad walked off, he went white. Composed himself after, looked at me, angry, what makes you so special? I said, I'm not special. I just talk to people in a proper manner. That's all it needs. Notes in the box. Prisoners getting stitched up. Too many to mention. There was an officer at one point worked on K-Wing with me, loosely speaking. I never worked with him, I detested him. We knew, management knew, they used to put notes in boxes, stitching prisoners up. Ghosting. Getting rid of prisoners, having them shipped out. In the private sector, we had a lass worked on E-Wing, that was the induction wing. There was a particularly horrible burglar landed on E-Wing. He burgled her house, that's what he was in for. I can't remember his name, never known his name. Some of the big names in Manchester will know him because he ended up down the block, yeah, fear for his life. Because what he did, this lad, you know, big time gangsters or people who were well known, big properties, he would rob them, figuring they'd have jewellery, money, worth. Yeah, so when he come into prison, he always ended up down the block or on a VP wing, on protection, on the non-swing. Yeah? She asked for him to be moved. The residential manager at that time, yeah, small man syndrome type character, you know the ones I mean, refused. He said to her, yeah, bear in mind this guy's trashed her house, smashed it up, flooded it out, excrement everywhere, it was horrible. He did this to the big names as well. This is why he always ended up on protection. Bad drug habit. Could have shipped him out to Strangeways or anywhere. No. Said to her, you can move wing, you can go sick, yeah, but you won't get paid, or I'll move you to another prison, because we had a few prisons, that group. Treat her like shit. She was a cracking officer. When I talk about lasses in the job, she was amazing. Really, really good officer. Worked hard, treated people right, and she was well respected. That same manager, small man syndrome, come down the block one day. Yeah, we had a prisoner down there. He was all right with us. He had been a troublesome prisoner in his time. He'd been in dispersal prisons. He was doing a big sentence. Probably got 10 years to go. Wanted to go back to dispersal. He'd been booted from dispersal, booted about a bit for troublesome. Settled down our block, like a lot of them are. He just wanted to go somewhere other than a Cat B local, you know, a bit quieter where he could just get on with his jail. 10 years to do. Manager come down, he knew the manager, he was a Manchester lad. Manager come down giving it the big licks. So when he'd done, he said to him, you need to go back to hairdressing. This is the prisoner to the manager. See, the manager, small man syndrome, used to be an hairdresser. Yeah. Now that lass who just wanted that lad moving off her wing, he couldn't do that. This lad, yeah, 2 hours he was gone. We got a phone call from allocations, people who move people from prison to prison. Tell him to pack his stuff. He's going. 2 hours, he was gone. Yeah, off down south somewhere, just like that, because he called him an hairdresser. Makes you sick, doesn't it? Anyway, guys, parting shot as always. I have got plenty of people to interview. My apologies, they haven't been round to it. Very busy at home, circumstances. We're now getting sorted, and hopefully I'll get out and about interviewing again. Stephen, parting shot. Plenty of people love you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Thanks for all the lovely comments, continual support. Oi, come and give him a look. Incidentally, his eyes are running. Somebody made a comment. This lad gets a bit of hay fever. I must clean his eyes 30 or 40 times a day. And he's well loved, that lad. Thanks for coming. I'll see you.